I want to show you what the Thunder GM, Sam Presti, said just yesterday in the exit interviews.
One thing I can tell you about Westbrook is he's driven, okay? He's going to keep coming. And, for our team, one of the things that I think he's focused on trying to do is become a better three-point shooter.
All right, so Sam says that Russell Westbrook is focused this offseason on becoming a better three-point shooter, which, Zach Lowe, I think is the opposite of what you want to hear. Is that right? You wrote a big piece on ESPN.com about the Thunder's Russell Westbrook problem.
If he's going to take 7 or 8 a game, he might as well try and be good at it. If he's going to shoot 30% or 29%, then that's probably too many shots. So I don't mind him trying to become a better three-point shooter. The general issue is he just shoots way too much. He shoots 4 or 5 shots too many a game, and we're going to see how that impacts Paul George's decision-making. But you don't think so? You disagree. You're all right. 43 shots with the season on the line. You're good.
I completely disagree with you. Reason being, I think this is a personnel problem. First of all, I would love for Russ to improve his three-point shooting. If he improves on that, then he's virtually going to be
a game changer.
It's a game changer for him and his team. But for me, I think I always go back to how they structured the team around Allen Iverson. How Billy King structured that team around Allen Iverson. You got to have those type of players around Russell Westbrook. He's that same type of player. I want Russ to play like he plays aggressively. I think if you hold him back, you see what happened this year. When you hold Russ back, he's not as effective. When he started playing aggressively in these playoffs, taking those 30 shots a game, they were winning ball games, and they were in the game. I want him to play that way. I don't want him to hold back.
I don't think it has to be a sea change. I just think it's 4 or 5 shots a game that are just objectively bad shots. You just run up and take a 22-footer. But Allen Iverson didn't have a Paul George. There was no Paul George on the best Sixers teams that got to the finals.
Allen Iverson couldn't play with Paul George. That's my point exactly. He couldn't play with him because Paul George needs the ball as well.
So do you think Paul George should stay with the Thunder? He's got a big decision to make.
I don't think he should stay. I just think that chemistry is just not. It's not good. It's not good unless Billy Donovan finds some way to utilize Paul George in a different way, like Chris Paul, Mike D'Antoni does with Chris Paul. James and Chris Paul really doesn't play that much until really the fourth quarter. So if he can find some way to work that out between Paul George and Russ, if he stays, then yeah.
I do think that is part of the model. I think Paul is a really good fit next to Russ. It just in terms of he's not like an option one, just give him the ball.
Right.
He likes to come off screens. He does need the ball more than he got it, but he likes to play the way some of the actions they ran for KD, they can run for Paul George. But I do agree, like, the roadmap for them is what Houston did, which is if you have a second star on the team with Russ who's going to shoot 1 million times a game, take him out after 4 minutes, bring him back in with Russ sits, and separate them as much as possible. Let them both just go crazy.
So would you guys say the OK3 experiment worked or didn't work, or by the virtue of the fact they got kicked out of the first round of the playoffs, it just didn't work?
I think it's really hard to tell, being that it was their first year. You saw flashes of how good they could be. Now, defensively, they were a really good team in the regular season. Offensively is just where the challenge was, and I just think they couldn't figure that out, in year one.
Well, their defense fell apart when Roberson got hurt. OKC, I guess Carmelo is the third guy in OKC 3. Well, given that by the end they were better with Jeremy Grant on the floor than Carmelo, then I think the OKC 3 failed.
Well, I think in the exit interviews yesterday, it started being, Russ, Paul George, and Steven Adams. It was sort of almost notable how much people were making them maybe the OK3. I don't know. Carmelo obviously has a big decision to make, and it seems like from listening to Sam Presti yesterday that they're going to be very clear with him. If you want your $28 million, you're going to have to agree to a different role, and we'll have to see if Melo does that. I don't know.
He's not opting out.
That's a polite way of saying maybe decline your $28 million player option.
I don't think that they want to both overpay him and have him be discontented.
Right.
And I should say, Carmelo Anthony, when he was in an extremely difficult situation in New York, was a pro.
Sure.
This year, when I know he was not happy with some of the way his role changed, was largely very professional. You just saw his frustration at the end. I'm curious to see what he does. I kind of have to agree with Tracy, though. I don't know anyone who's turning down $28 million. I just don't.